It's Papa. Today I'd like to begin reading a chapter from One Man's Mile called The Signal. It's about Alex. The Moose River empties into the southern tip of the James Bay in northern Ontario. In the center of the river sits Moose Factory Island, named for both the river and the manager of the Hudson's Bay Company. His official title is Factor. His house is the factory. In the summer, the short trip to the island from the Ontario Northland railhead in the town of Moosonee is made by canoe. Not the small craft that is paddled, but a large square-stern boat driven by a powerful outboard motor. The length of the canoe ride from Moosonee to Moose Factory varies with the tide. At low tide, the taxi must head downstream, skirting an exposed sandbar in the middle of the river. At high tide, the canoe travels straight across the river, over the sandbar, and through a man-made gap in Charles Island to weave around the back end of Sawpit Island, ending the trip at the hospital docks. In the winter, with 3 feet of ice built up across the river, trucks and cars can drive straight from the Missawinnikan Hall on the Moosonee side across Charles Island, through the provincial park, and up the boat ramp near Ray's house on Moose Factory Island. Both of these routes are impassable in the spring and the fall. In years gone by, brave souls crossed ice melting in the spring thaw by walking beside a boat they slid over the ice. If the ice gave way, they jumped into the boat. In the fall, then and now, people who appear to lack good sense, but who know the river, cross over what seems to be a skim of ice, walking gingerly at low tide across sections of the river with little current. Helicopters now ferry less adventuresome citizens of the island back and forth to the mainland when the river is impassable. Alex had lived on the island all his life, working for the Hudson's Bay Company. As a young boy, he had served in the summer on the sailing sloops that carried goods from Moose Factory to communities along the James and Hudson's Bays. In the winter, he had attended school on the island. The school, Horden Hall, was named after the first bishop of the area. Alex and other children from the island attended during the day. Children from across the James Bay lived at the school, having been taken from their villages to be educated in a standard acceptable in the South. Although the officials who devised the residential school system for native children of isolated parts of Canada sincerely believed it was done as a means of efficiently educating the North, the damage done to the familial, cultural, and social structure of native villages was permanent. In his retirement, Alex was content to take the occasional handyman job on the island, working with the energy of a man half his age. When not employed, Alex worked around the house, cut wood, helped anyone he could in the village. If the Anglican Church had any kind of project, from painting to electrical repair, Alex volunteered. For over a month in the early spring, a group of tireless workers dug, by hand, a basement under the church parish hall. Alex was not able to dig, but accepted the role of project supervisor without being asked. But the crew of the volunteers went about their work according to their own plans, regardless of his directions, causing much blustering and the use of language certainly not related to the construction of a church hall. Invariably, the day after his ideas had been ignored, Alex would return to the project pleased with progress and armed with a new set of irrelevant directions. On an island with a small population, everyone knows everyone else. Alex was no exception. Everyone knew him. At a distance, he was recognizable in his green hunting cap, red plaid flannel jacket, and blue bib overalls. His hat was always askew, allowing a few wisps of white hair to escape and blow in the wind. Alex was bent with age, but still powerful. Large arms built from years of heavy labor were sagging but able to do more than their share of carrying blocks or wheel-bearing cement. His bull neck, wrinkled with age, tensed against loads far heavier than one man should lift. Despite being irritated by workers who ignored him, Alex displayed his sense of humor regularly. A quick smile was followed by a staccato laugh, usually preceding a practical joke or a comment designed to emphasize someone's inadvertent mistake. I was the victim of his humor more than once. As I paused to get more nails while framing a wall for the new basement, Alex asked me for my hammer. Puzzled, I looked at the hammer hanging from his belt, but I gave him mine. I had a habit when tired from hammering of holding my hammer up from the end of the handle. This was the type of idiosyncrasy Alex loved. Without hesitation, he picked up a power saw and cut 4 inches of the wooden handle off of my hammer. "That was just added weight, since he didn't use that part anyway, he announced to the rest of the town men, who were doubling over with laughter. Handing me the hammer, he observed, "You should be able to work faster now, because this is more to your liking." All I could do was laugh as I looked for another hammer. One of the workmen dared to tell Alex that more spacers were needed for a section of framing that was being built. In response to this innocuous request, Alex responded, "Alex has 2 speeds, slow and stop. Which one do you want?" Despite the irascible temper and unexpected practical jokes, everyone enjoyed having Alex on the job. Ignored supervision notwithstanding, he was a hard worker, contributing a great deal to what was accomplished each day. So it was with mixed feelings that the crew received Alex's news that he was going to his cabin across the river, while the ice was still good for traveling. Many people on the island had built cabins on what was called the Quebec side of the Moose River. Built as bases for hunting and places to rest when cutting wood, they served primarily as a getaway destination when the bustle of life on the island became intolerable. Alex wanted to get to his cabin while the ice was still strong enough to hold a snow machine without danger. I had been to Alex's cabin that winter on a woodcutting expedition. It was a small rectangular structure built out of 2x6s, logs, and plywood. There was just one long room, one end for sleeping and the other end for sitting. The middle was for cooking and eating. Glass windows, broken at some time in the past, had been replaced with plastic that let in light but blocked the view. A short, squat cast-iron wood stove radiated heat while offering a cooking surface big enough to hold every pot and pan on the island. One double bed, a table and 2 chairs, an overstuffed couch, and an almost matching overstuffed chair, both of which looked like 2 wildcats had been fighting on them, completed the decor of the cabin. On the door was a calendar from the 1960s with pictures of airplanes from that era. Oil lamps and candles placed strategically around the cabin provided the light. Someone visiting Alex might have wondered why he wanted to spend time at such a place, a ramshackle cabin in the middle of the spruce forest, half a river away from the closest person. Those were the reasons Alex wanted to get to his cabin while he could still travel. So that's an introduction to Alex and his cabin, and I'll read more tomorrow to find out exactly what happened. In the meantime, have a great day and love one another.